Times Radio. Now, I want to talk to you about one of my favourite subjects, scams. One of the big mistakes people make is that they assume that it's only the elderly that fall for scams. Well, I have news for you. People under 35 are more likely than older age groups to have been targeted in an impersonation scam and fallen for it. An impersonation scam is where a criminal contacts someone pretending to be a person or an organisation that they trust. They then try to convince you to make a payment or give away your personal and financial details. Now, some may say, takes one to know one, but maybe not. Impressionist Francine Lewis was hit by an impersonation scam, and she joins us now. Francine, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and what a wonderful afternoon it is.
It is a wonderful afternoon, and thank you for sharing it with us. I know it's nice and sunny outside. Also joining us is Katie Warrabeck, Managing Director of Economic Crime at UK Finance. Good afternoon to you, Katie.
Hi there, how are you doing?
Very well. Thanks for giving me your time, both of you. Francine, I think your story is quite an extraordinary story, but sadly it's an all too common story. Describe to us what happened to you.
Yeah, it was, do you know something? And I look back and I think, how did this happen to me? How did I not see through it? And these people are just so convincing. Basically, my husband was looking to do investments, to multiply his money. He always says, when it's in the bank, you don't get this much interest. So he was looking into it, and I think he was just caught at the right time. Mm-hmm. These people started cold calling him. They said, we're from this company, Fomax Capital, blah, blah, blah. We do this, we do that. But they didn't just make that one call. They were calling him constantly. And as we know from, people that have been through it, it's only these scammers that will pressurize you and persist with you. Unfortunately, he didn't see all these signs, and I remember him being quite excited when he put his first bit of money in, and he could log in and he was seeing what interest he was making. It's that little thing, if it's too good to be true, don't believe it, which is true. And he, somehow convinced me at the first instant. I was like, definitely not, no way. You haven't even met these people. And then I spoke to them, and I was even taken in, by these people. I'd spoken to them quite a few times. And what did I do? I just went and I just put the whole lot in, and not only my money, all my children's money. I'd been saving for them since they were babies. I think that for me, I don't think I'll ever get over, actually.
And am I right in thinking that combined, you and your family have lost somewhere in the region of £90,000?
Yes, I would like to also say that was including my father-in-law, which really makes me sad, because obviously he's, that was his retirement money. He lost a substantial amount of money as well. So between the three of us, my husband, myself, and my father-in-law, we lost £90,000 to these scammers. And I was so embarrassed to talk about it at the first instant. I just felt like we felt so stupid. It made my husband incredibly ill. He felt very guilty. Not only did he, I'm not going to say make me, but he persuaded me this would be a great thing to do. But also my father-in-law. So it made him quite ill. It actually destroyed us for quite a while.
Katie, you're the Managing Director of Economic Crime at UK Finance. What's going on here? What happened to Francine? Who were these people? And would the authorities be able to track them down?
It's a real challenge to find the sorts of people who set up these fake companies. This particular company, I don't think, was actually registered with the Financial Conduct Authority. That's sort of one thing to look out for if you are looking for an investment. Francine, I know you. Probably the one thing that wasn't checked was the fact that
And when I found that out, honestly, I was so angry. My husband was like, "Oh, I researched everything, I did everything," but he missed out the vital point. They were not registered with the So that is so important, as Katie just said. It's so important.
Katie, can you tell us why it's so important, and how do companies sort of circumvent that? How do companies basically bamboozle their victims to not checking, or perhaps they're lying, or perhaps they're registering names that sound similar to legitimate companies that are registered with the FCA?
Well, all of the above, really, and they can look very convincing, as you say, that their names may be very similar to a legitimate company. They could have a website which looks very similar to a legitimate company as well. So people get drawn in, and as Francie said, the key thing is that they pressure you into taking part. That you think you're going to miss out on an investment, that type of thing. It's a real challenge, but we've got to remember that these are really sophisticated fraudsters, and that's what we're all up against, is these people who are impersonating either a company or they're impersonating the police and the bank or utility company, you name it. They can be impersonated. So I think the key thing is for us to remember that you don't need to respond to these people if they're putting under pressure for whatever reason. The key thing is to take a moment to think before you start doing anything like giving away your financial details or any money. As Francie says, it's either too good to be true, it's investment, or if they're trying to tell you that your money's at risk, that's probably something that's not true either, and you'll need to sort of go and check with your bank or police.
Now, it's interesting because this company that Francine was dealing with, they had a registered address in Canary Wharf, of all places. So they'll have that address, they'll have the fancy website, but actually they weren't registered with the Financial Conduct Authority. Now, Katie, what about people who listen to these scams and say, well, hang on, that money must have gone somewhere. It's a considerable amount of money. Why can't it be traced and retrieved by the authorities and the banks?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a good question, of course. It's the first thing you'd think of. But we've got to remember, I think, often, particularly with investment scams, the type of thing that Francine's and her family fell foul of were that they sort of pull you in over a period of time. So you make a payment, you might make some money back from it, actually, and it might take some weeks or even months before you actually realise that your money's gone out of the door, by which time, of course, it's long gone out of the country, and very difficult actually to trace once it's crossed the border into another jurisdiction. So the key thing is always to try and prevent it at the first place, and not try and chase the money after the event, because they will quickly move it out of the country, and it's very difficult then to try and track it down. It's split up and moved on.
Francine, how did you discover that the people you were dealing with were scammers?
Well, as I said, it was one thing. I remember even when I put the money in, there was a slight doubt. There was a gut feeling. I would always say, always go with your gut. And I was kind of feeling like this, and my husband was like, no, God, don't be silly, look, phone them if you don't, speak to them. And I used to do that, and I was actually arranging to meet them. They were very like, yes, meet us, blah blah blah, we'll be really happy to meet you, come down, we're doing this, whatever. And then I remember my husband must have been, I think he tried to get some money out, and I remember I was at the cinema with my son. I came home and he was white as a ghost. Him having to tell me that he's discovered that this company's a scam, because then he started really researching it and really finding things out, and he realized this is a scam. We're never going to get our money back. And oh my God, when he gave me that news, I was I can't even explain what happened that night. It was so bad. And then even the next morning, my husband actually collapsed on the floor. And I had to call the ambulance because I thought he was having a heart attack. And that was what the light switch sort of went on. And I thought, no amount of money is going to tear my family apart, and it's going to, nothing's worth it. Nothing. We've still got the roof over our heads. we'll just work that bit harder and learn from this mistake, and never ever let somebody do this to us or anybody we know again, you know. And that's why I love the fact that I can raise awareness, and I'm working with Take 5 to stop fraud. You know, this is a great campaign, so I'm really happy to be working with them. And if I can help one person not go through what my family went through, then that would be amazing.
Well, Francine, thank you for sharing your story with us. I think it's really important that people don't feel embarrassed to share these stories and go public with them. Francine Lewis, impressionist and finalist, we have to say, on Britain's Got Talent, who was the victim of an impersonation scam. And also, Katie, thank you for your time. Katie Warrabeck, Managing Director of Economic Crime at UK Finance. Thank you both. Do check out the Take 5 campaign. I once helped launch the Take 5 campaign many moons ago, but it's still going and it's still going strong. This is the idea that you should take 5 minutes before sharing any personal or financial information with anyone, whether it's over a text message, an email, or particularly a phone call. You heard there from Francine, that gut instinct. If your gut is telling you something, listen to it. Hang up. Do your own inquiries, particularly if you're working with financial institutions. If they are not part of the Financial Conduct Authority, then you shouldn't be dealing with them. Do watch out that some companies will register names that sound very similar. They'll have a one-letter difference by a company that is registered with the FCA. And that is to trick you. So do your due diligence. And of course, as Francine and Katie mentioned there, and I think over 100 episodes of The Real Hustle ended with, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. It's 21 minutes past.